we're back, part 3. So we're on number 11 now. It says the elevation of Boone, North Carolina is about 3,000 feet. Havelock, North Carolina is about 23 feet elevation. And if you think about it, that makes sense. And I did Google that first before I put that in, so that's roughly accurate. But it is because we are much closer to sea level, which is 0, which expression would show the difference between the two of them. That word difference, that should tell you to do what operation? Should tell you to subtract. So automatically, when we look at these, we can tell that these are absolute values. So this is the absolute value of 3,000 plus the absolute value of 23. Is that going to give us the difference? No, because it is addition. This is telling us the difference between, or the absolute value of positive 23 and the absolute value of 3,000, which even though this looks like 23 minus 3,000, that's going to be a crazy negative number, it's not, because it's absolute value, which means you take away the sign. Absolute value is never negative. So that is the true difference between 23 and 3,000. So B would be our answer. C says, I don't remember the meaning of absolute value, so I will message my teacher. If you see this and you are like, I have no idea what this means, that is something that we talked about last week, and I'm happy to help you, but you will have to message me so that I know and I can help you with absolute value.
So to me, the minus sign there literally means the difference.
Exactly.
The difference between 23 and 3,000.
Mm-hmm. And that's what's cool about absolute value is you don't have to be like, oh my gosh, is this going to result in a negative number? Because it's not. It is just, like Ms. Phillips said, the literal meaning of these numbers combined or the difference between the two of them.
So what's the mathematical term for the lines on each side of the number? Is there one?
It's just an absolute value symbol.
Okay.
Just like this is an equal sign, this means absolute value.
And I was going to ask if that's what that meant.
Mm-hmm.
So that number is equal to itself almost.
Yeah, exactly. So
Okay.
It's not positive, it's not negative, it is neutral, because either way, like brief review of absolute value, if you have absolute value of -8, this just means 8, because that is saying that it is 8 spaces away from 0.
Okay.
So that's all absolute value is. But I know I put C as an answer choice because I know a lot of us get confused on absolute value, because that is something that is brand new in 6th grade. And we've heard like all this before in some way, but absolute value is brand new. So I know that can get confusing. So please let me know if we need any extra help on that. So the next one is also absolute value. It says Madeline walked down 2 flights of stairs. Then she walked up 3 flights of stairs. Then finally, she walks down 5 flights of stairs. Which expression could represent the total number of flights Madeline walked? So if we think about this, she's not going to walk negative stairs. She's walking these stairs. She's burning calories. You know, maybe her boot's off, maybe it's still on, but she's walking these stairs. So we are not going to have negative. So we are going to be looking at the absolute values of each of these numbers. So I'd like to go ahead and look at B first, because B doesn't have any absolute values. If we just solve B straight across, we have -2. We're going to combine +3 with it, which would leave us at +1. And then we have +1 minus 5, which would leave us at -4. Like I just said, she can't walk negative stairs. She did it, it happened, so B would not be our answer. So if we look at letter A, we have the absolute value of -2, which we know is actually just 2. And then we have minus the absolute value of 3, which we know is just 3, and then plus the absolute value of 5. So we could rewrite that problem to be 2, because pay attention to this, the negative sign is inside the bracket, which means we know that it's asking for the absolute value. Here, it is not. So this is the absolute value of 3. That's what the difference is the placement of the minus symbol inside or outside of the bracket. So we would have 2,
Okay,
this minus would stay the same because it's not included in the absolute value. So we have absolute value of -2, which is 2, minus 3 plus 5. And if we solve this, 2 minus 3, or positive 2 combined with -3, is going to give us -1 plus 5, which would give us that she only walked 4 flights of stairs. But if you think about that, if you're like, Madeline, you only walked 4 flights of stairs, and she'd be like, oh no, I walked way more stairs than 4. So A could not be your answer. So that leaves only C, but let's look at why C is correct. So C is telling us the absolute value of 2, which is just 2, plus, or combined, because it's asking for the total, combined with the absolute value of 3, combined with the absolute value of -5, which we know is just regular 5, which would give us that Madeline walked 10 total flights of stairs. Does that make sense?
yes, and these stairs really made a lot of sense because the idea of down being negative and up being positive, but the fact that she physically walked all of these stairs,
Right.
it wasn't like the money where we're subtracting and adding.
Yeah. So this one is just like a straightforward absolute value question. So you're comparing which of the following is true. So we're looking at these inequalities. So this is saying that the absolute value of 15 is greater than 12. How many spaces away from 0 is -15? It's just 15. So is 15 greater than 12? Yes. And this may be, I don't know yet, this may be one of those with multiple answer choices that are correct, so we're gonna work through all of them. We're not just gonna circle A and B done. This says -10 is greater than the absolute value of -1, which is just 1. Is -10 greater than 1? No, absolutely not. So then this says -3. The absolute value is less than +2. So that is saying absolute value of -3 is just 3 is less than 2. Does that make sense? Nope. So we know that A is our only correct answer here. Any questions? Good on that one? I feel like if you made it through this part in the review, it's easier from here. So this one, same thing, pretty straightforward. It says, what is the difference between -16.8 and 9.1? This would be great if you wanted to draw a number line, you could. If you know to get the difference, which is not just going to be, this is a main mistake that I've seen students make, just doing, oh, difference, 16.8 minus 9.1. This is not going to work because you are finding the difference between. And if you look at a number line, I'm not gonna fill in all the numbers, but -16.8 would be like way down here, 0's here, 9.1 would be like over here. So there's gonna be way bigger of a difference than if you just did 16.8 minus 9.1.
There are a lot of teachers that equivocate difference with subtract. I really push the fact that the word difference means how are the values of the number different, not necessarily subtraction. Just like what would the differences between me and you be, or you and I be.
Yeah.
And so the difference here isn't necessarily subtraction, it's how are the values different? What is the value of the difference?
Right. So, and just like Ms. Phillips said, it's not going to always be subtraction, especially like in a video that I haven't made yet, but I'm going to, and I'm probably gonna post it, like, actually probably tomorrow, about combining negative numbers. You can forget almost everything you know about subtraction, because once you get with negative numbers, it's more of just combining digits and looking at like just the difference between them or the combined total of them when you have positive and negatives. So to go from 16.8 to 0, I know I'm gonna have to jump 16.8 spaces. So I'm already, did I move to the right or the left? I move to the right, so that's like positive. That's like the